All right, today we are going under the hood of one of the most powerful and, frankly, most misunderstood tools for betting against the market, the SQQQ ETF. It makes this incredible promise of triple inverse returns when the NASDAQ tanks. But what's the catch? Well, we're going to find out by looking at the one source that tells all, the fund's own summary prospectus.
I mean, the pitch is just so tempting, right? The idea that while everyone else is losing money as the NASDAQ 100 drops, you're not just safe. You could be making 3 times the inverse of that move. It's a huge, bold bet. But, and this is the big question, does it actually play out like that in the real world?
So, to really get what SQQQ is all about, we have to start right at the core, with its official mission. It all comes down to what they call the negative 3x daily bet. This one concept is the key to everything else.
Okay, here it is, word for word from the fund's documents. Now, there are 2 words here that are absolutely critical, daily and negative 3x. What this means is, if the NASDAQ 100 drops 1%, SQQQ is supposed to go up 3%. But, and this is huge, that target is only for that one single day. The whole machine is designed around that 24-hour clock. So you have to be asking, how in the world does it manage to hit that daily target day in and day out? Well, the secret sauce, or maybe the secret poison, is a process called the daily reset. This is the engine driving this thing, and you have got to understand how it works. And look, they couldn't be more clear about this. The prospectus basically screams it from the rooftops. That negative 3x goal is for one trading day, period, full stop. It makes 0 promises, none, about what it'll do over a week, a month, or a year. So here's how that daily dance works. The fund starts the day with a bunch of complex financial instruments, like swaps, to get that minus 3x leverage. Now, let's say the NASDAQ falls. Great, right? The fund's assets go up. But here's the twist. To get back to that minus 3x target for the next day, it has to use its now bigger pot of money to take on an even larger short position. So it's forced to short more after a good day and short less after a bad day. You can probably already see how that might cause some problems down the line. And that constant buying and selling, that daily reset, leads us directly to the single biggest risk for anyone who thinks about holding this thing for more than a day. It's what's known as the compounding trap.
And hey, don't take my word for it. This is a direct quote from the prospectus, right in the main risk section. This is not buried in the fine print, it's a headline warning. They are telling you straight up that if you hold on, the math starts to get really weird and potentially really, really painful.
So why? What's going on here? Well, the number one villain is volatility, all those up and down days. Because the fund has to rebalance every single day, in a choppy market, it's essentially forced to increase its bet when prices are low and decrease its bet when they're high. Over time, this constant adjustment just grinds away at your returns. It's a mathematical decay that can cause you to lose money even if the market goes sideways, or, believe it or not, even if it goes down like you predicted. Okay, so just how bad can this decay get? Well, to their credit, the prospectus doesn't hide it. In fact, they give you a table with some hypothetical numbers that are, and I don't use this word lightly, truly shocking. It really shows you the brutal power of volatility. So this table, right here, tells you everything you need to know. On the left, you've got what the NASDAQ does over a year. That second column is what you'd think you'd get, just a simple negative 3x return. But then, look at the columns to the right. As volatility goes up, you can literally watch your expected returns completely evaporate and then turn into just staggering losses. It's wild. The key takeaway, straight from the fund's own documents, is that your return gets eaten alive as volatility rises. It means that with this ETF, the journey, the path the market takes, matters way, way more than the final destination. Let's just pull out one example from that table because this is mind-blowing. Let's say the NASDAQ goes on a wild ride for a year, but ends up completely flat, 0% change. You'd expect to break even, right? Nope. With 50% volatility, the fund estimates you would lose a staggering 77.7%. You lose more than 3/4 of your money while the index went absolutely nowhere. But this next one is the most dangerous scenario of all. You were a genius. You called it perfectly. You bet the market would fall, and it did. It dropped 20%. You're expecting a 60% gain. But because the year was volatile, the prospectus shows you would have actually lost 56.4%. Just let that sink in. You got the market's direction 100% right and still got completely wiped out. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but 50% volatility sounds crazy high. Well, the prospectus gives us some context. The actual historical 5-year volatility for the NASDAQ 100 was almost 26%. So that 25% column in the table, the one that still shows major losses from this decay, yeah, that's not some crazy hypothetical. That's rooted in reality. And if you can believe it, the compounding trap isn't the only ghost in this machine. The prospectus lays out a whole list of other risks. And this stuff isn't just boilerplate legalese. These are real, fundamental dangers. You've got leverage risk, for instance. Because it's a negative 3x fund, if the NASDAQ somehow shot up by 33% in a single day, it could theoretically lose everything. Total wipeout. Then there's counterparty risk. The fund is dealing with big banks for its derivatives. And what if one of them gets into trouble? And of course, you're making a massive concentrated bet against the biggest names in tech. And on top of everything else, you're paying for the privilege. The fund charges almost 1% a year, and they even tell you that that number doesn't include all the heavy costs of trading they have to do every single day to rebalance. It's just one more hurdle you have to clear. So you put all of this together, and what do you have? It becomes incredibly clear that SQQQ was never, ever meant to be a traditional investment. It's something else entirely. It's a highly specialized and very sharp tool. I mean, the difference is night and day. A normal investment is designed to benefit from compounding over the long haul. This thing is actively destroyed by compounding over the long haul. It's not a buy and hold investment. It's a tactical weapon for very sophisticated traders making very short-term intraday bets. Which really brings us to the final question you have to ask yourself, knowing everything we've just learned from the fund's own documents, knowing that volatility is its kryptonite, and it's built for a single day. What kind of perfect, almost impossible storm would need to happen for this to actually work over any extended period of time? Well, you'd need the market to go down, hard, and in a straight line, day after day after day with almost no bounces. And how often does that really happen? That's the billion-dollar question.